Ethan Bradford's fingers froze over his keyboard. His boss, Cassandra Monroe, the woman who commanded boardrooms like a battlefield general, who never showed weakness, who wore her authority like armor, stood in his office doorway wearing an emerald dress that made his mouth go dry. "Do I look good in this dress?" she asked, her voice uncharacteristically small. He should have said something professional, something appropriate. Instead, what came out was, "I'm having trouble looking away." The air between them crackled with something dangerous and unspoken. Cassandra's gray eyes widened, her usual composure slipping for just a fraction of a second before she straightened. And that's when his 6-year-old daughter, Emma, appeared behind her, tugging at Cassandra's hand. "Miss Monroe, you look like a princess." "But Daddy, why is your face all red?" The universe, Ethan decided, had a twisted sense of humor. But what neither of them knew was that this moment, this seemingly innocent question, would unravel secrets that had been carefully buried for 3 years, because the charity gala Cassandra was dressing for wasn't just any event. It was being hosted by Ethan's late wife's family, who blamed him for her death. What would happen when past and present collided in one catastrophic evening? 3 months earlier, Ethan had walked into Monroe Architectural Designs with a portfolio under his arm and Emma's hand in his. The daycare had called. She was sick, and he had no backup. It was his final interview, his last shot at a job that could change their lives. "Mr. Bradford," Cassandra had said, eyeing his daughter with an expression he couldn't read. "This is a professional environment." "I know, Mem. I'm sorry. There's nowhere else for her to be right now, and I promise you won't regret giving me a chance." Emma, feverish and clingy, had looked up at the tall woman with the sharp suit and said, "Are you a queen? You dress like the queens in my books." For the first time in the interview, Cassandra smiled, a real one, not the professional mask she wore. "No, sweetheart, just someone who works very hard. My daddy works hard too. He makes me pancakes shaped like stars." Ethan got the job. He suspected Emma had more to do with it than his credentials. Working for Cassandra Monroe was like dancing on the edge of a knife. She was brilliant, demanding, and maintained walls so high you'd need climbing gear to scale them. But over months of late nights, project deadlines, and Emma occasionally visiting the office, Ethan noticed cracks. The way Cassandra's voice softened when Emma showed her drawings. How she'd leave, forgotten, snacks on his desk, when she knew he'd skipped lunch to finish designs. The loneliness that flickered in her eyes when everyone else went home to their families. He'd learned through office gossip that Cassandra was 41, never married, entirely devoted to the company she'd built from nothing. What people didn't know, what he'd accidentally discovered when retrieving a file from her office, was that she'd been engaged once. The photo tucked in her desk drawer showed a younger Cassandra, radiantly happy, with a man who looked at her like she hung the moon. That man was nowhere in her life now. "Ethan, I need your honest opinion." It was a Friday evening, everyone else gone for the weekend. Cassandra stood by the windows of the empty conference room, the city lights creating a halo around her silhouette. She'd called him in to discuss the Henderson project, but something in her tone suggested this was about more than blueprints. "Always," he said, setting down his tablet. "Do you think I'm—" She paused, a rare hesitation, cold. The question caught him off guard. This woman who negotiated multi-million-dollar contracts without blinking looked suddenly vulnerable. "I think you're careful," he answered honestly. "There's a difference." Careful. She turned to face him, arms crossed. "Is that code for emotionally unavailable?" "It's code for someone who's been hurt and decided not to give anyone else the opportunity." Cassandra's laugh was bitter. "You sound like you're speaking from experience. My wife died 3 years ago. Ethan said quietly. Char accident. She was pregnant with our second child. For a long time, I thought I'd never feel anything again except the weight of taking care of Emma alone. The silence stretched between them, heavy with shared understanding. I'm sorry, Cassandra whispered. I didn't know about the baby. Not many people do. Emma knows she had a little sister who became an angel before being born. That's enough. Cassandra moved closer, close enough that he could smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive. His name was David, my fiancé. He died 2 weeks before our wedding, heart condition no one knew he had. I found him collapsed in his apartment. Ethan's chest tightened. Cassandra. I threw myself into work, she continued, her voice steady but her hands trembling slightly. Built this company as a monument to the life I was supposed to have but didn't. And somewhere along the way, I forgot how to be anything other than the ice queen everyone thinks I am. You're not ice, Ethan said, the words coming before he could stop them. You're just frozen. There's a difference. Ice is permanent. Frozen things can thaw. Her gray eyes met his, and something shifted in the room, something that made his pulse quicken and his professional boundaries scream warnings he was rapidly losing the ability to hear. Ethan, she said softly, we can't. I know. You work for me, I know. This is completely inappropriate. I know that too. But neither of them moved away. Emma's voice in the hallway, she'd come with him because Friday was their daddy-daughter evening, broke the spell. Daddy! Mrs. Chen from accounting gave me cookies. Cassandra stepped back, smoothing her suit, professional mask sliding back into place. But her cheeks were flushed, and Ethan knew his own face was probably broadcasting everything he was trying not to feel. We should get back to work, Cassandra said. Right. Work. The Henderson Project. They both knew they hadn't discussed the Henderson Project at all. The charity gala had been circled on the office calendar for months. Monroe Architectural Designs was a major sponsor, and Cassandra would be giving a speech. As her senior designer, Ethan was expected to attend. What he hadn't expected was the event being hosted by the Whitfield Foundation, his late wife Jennifer's family foundation. You've gone pale, Cassandra observed when he saw the invitation. What's wrong? The Whitfields are my in-laws, my late wife's parents. Cassandra's expression shifted to concern. Are you on good terms? They blame me for Jennifer's death. She was coming to pick me up from a late work meeting when the accident happened. If I'd just driven myself that night. He trailed off, the old guilt rising like bile. Ethan, you know that's not rational. Grief isn't rational. Neither is blame. They haven't spoken to me in 2 years, except through lawyers fighting for custody of Emma. Cassandra's protective instincts flared visibly. They tried to take Emma. They believed I was neglectful, too focused on work, using daycare too much. The case was dismissed, but it cost me everything I'd saved. This job was literally my last chance to rebuild our lives. Then you don't have to go to the gala. Yes, I do. Running away sends the message that they're right, that I'm ashamed or hiding something. Emma deserves grandparents who love her, not this Cold War. Maybe if they see us doing well. Cassandra studied him for a long moment. Then we make sure they see you thriving. This is also a professional opportunity. We're unveiling the design for the new Children's Hospital wing. Your design? Let your work speak for itself. Which brought them to this moment, days before the gala, with Cassandra standing in his office doorway, asking his opinion about a dress. The emerald fabric hugged her curves, in a way her business suits never did. The neckline elegant, but revealing enough to remind him that his boss was very much a woman. She'd let her usually pinned hair fall in soft waves around her shoulders. I'm having trouble looking away, he'd said, and immediately regretted his honesty. But the way Cassandra's breath caught, the slight flush on her cheeks, maybe honesty was exactly what they both needed. "Is it too much?" she asked, a rare insecurity showing. Emma, who'd been coloring at his desk, jumped up. "You look beautiful," like Daddy's face when he looks at that photo of Mommy. The innocent observation landed like a bomb in the room. Cassandra's eyes widened. Ethan felt his heart stop. Because Emma was right, he was looking at Cassandra the way he'd once looked at Jennifer, and there was no going back from that realization. "Emma, sweetheart, why don't you show Miss Monroe your drawing?" Ethan managed, trying to recover. But Cassandra was already kneeling down to Emma's level, genuine warmth in her expression. "I'd love to see it." Emma presented her crayon masterpiece, 3 stick figures. One tall with yellow hair, one medium with brown hair, one small with pigtails. They were holding hands in front of a building covered in rainbow windows.
"That's you, Daddy, and me,"
Emma announced proudly. "In front of Miss Monroe's building, because she made you smile again." Ethan wanted the floor to swallow him whole. Cassandra's voice was thick with emotion when she spoke. "This is beautiful, Emma. May I keep it? Really, you want my drawing?" "I'd be honored." As Cassandra carefully took the paper, her fingers brushed Ethan's, and the electricity between them was undeniable. This had gone so far beyond professional boundaries, they couldn't even see the border anymore. The night of the event arrived with the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. Ethan wore his best suit, which still felt inadequate in these circles, and arrived at the glittering venue with Emma dressed in her finest party dress, her hand gripping his tightly. "Remember?" he whispered to his daughter. "Best behavior tonight." "I know, Daddy, but will Grandma and Grandpa Whitfield be nice?" "I hope so, baby." The ballroom was magnificent, crystal chandeliers, elegant crowds, champagne flowing. And there, across the room, stood Cassandra in that emerald dress, absolutely radiant and completely unaware that every man in the vicinity was staring. Ethan was aware, very aware. "Ethan." The voice froze his blood. He turned to find Margaret Whitfield, Jennifer's mother, standing with her husband Robert. They both looked older than he remembered, grief having carved lines into their distinguished faces. "Margaret, Robert." He instinctively pulled Emma closer. "Emma." Margaret's voice cracked. "Look how big you've gotten." "Hi, Grandma," Emma said uncertainly. The tension was suffocating. Then Robert spoke, and what he said changed everything. "We owe you an apology," Robert Whitfield said, the words clearly difficult. "The things we said, the custody case. Grief made us cruel. We blamed you because we couldn't accept that sometimes terrible things just happen." Ethan felt like the ground had shifted beneath him. What?" Margaret's eyes were wet. "We've been in therapy, working through our loss properly. And we realized we weren't just trying to punish you. We were trying to hold on to Jennifer by holding on to Emma, but we were going about it all wrong. We've missed so much of our granddaughter's life." Emma looked up at Ethan, seeking permission. He nodded, and she cautiously approached her grandparents. "I missed you too," Emma said simply. "Daddy says you loved Mommy very much, just like we do." Margaret dropped to her knees, pulling Emma into a hug as tears streamed down her face. "So very much. And we love you too, sweetheart. We're so sorry." Robert extended his hand to Ethan. "Can we start over? For Emma's sake, and because you were a good husband to our daughter. We should have seen that." Ethan shook his hand, his own eyes burning. "I'd like that." Across the ballroom, Cassandra watched the reunion with a mixture of relief and something else she didn't want to examine too closely. She'd been prepared to run interference if the Whitfields caused trouble, had mentally rehearsed cutting remarks to put them in their place. Instead, she was watching Ethan get back something he'd lost: family support, reconciliation, hope, and she was watching the woman she'd become around him, protective, emotional, invested in ways that had nothing to do with employee dynamics. You care about him. Cassandra turned to find her own brother, Daniel, holding 2 champagne flutes. She took one gratefully. He's a good employee. Cassie, I've known you your entire life. You haven't looked at anyone like that since David. She wanted to deny it. Instead, she took a long sip of champagne. It doesn't matter how I look at him. Why not? He's my employee. He's rebuilding his life. He has a daughter to think about. He doesn't need the complication of his mess of a boss who doesn't know how to have a normal relationship. Daniel squeezed her shoulder. Maybe he needs exactly that. Someone who understands loss. Someone who makes him laugh. Someone who his daughter clearly adores and who looks at that little girl like she's precious. Stop overthinking it. Before Cassandra could respond, the event coordinator was signaling that it was time for speeches. She took the stage, the spotlight warm on her skin, and began her prepared remarks about the children's hospital wing, community responsibility, architectural vision, professional, safe. Exactly what was expected. Then she saw Emma in the crowd, holding both her father's and grandparents' hands, beaming up at the stage. And Cassandra went off script. When I started this company 15 years ago, she said, her voice carrying through the ballroom, I thought success meant buildings and contracts and recognition. I threw everything I had into work because I'd lost the person I was supposed to build a life with, and construction felt safer than connection. The room had gone quiet. Daniel looked shocked. She never spoke publicly about David. But recently, Cassandra continued, finding Ethan's eyes in the crowd. I've been reminded that buildings are just structures. What matters is the people inside them. The father working late not because he's avoiding home, but because he's building a future for his daughter. The little girl who sees beauty everywhere and reminds us why we create things in the first place. The families who use this hospital wing to heal, to hope, to hold on to each other through the hardest moments. Her voice grew stronger, more certain. The design for this children's wing wasn't mine. It was created by someone on my team who understands what spaces mean to people in crisis because he's lived through crisis. Ethan Bradford, would you join me on stage? Ethan looked stunned. Emma was bouncing excitedly. The Whitfields were smiling encouragingly. He made his way to the stage, and Cassandra continued. Ethan's design incorporates natural light in every room, because he knows darkness makes fear worse. There are family sleep spaces, because he knows you shouldn't have to choose between rest and being near your child. There are memory gardens, because he knows that sometimes healing includes grief. She turned to face him directly, the audience fading away. He designed this with his whole heart, and it shows. That's what I'm proud to present tonight, not just a building, but a space created with empathy, experience, and hope. The applause was thunderous. But all Ethan could hear was the subtext in every word. She'd said, I see you. I value you. You matter. As they exited the stage together, his hand found the small of her back, a gesture that could have been professional courtesy, but felt like so much more. You didn't have to do that. He murmured, Yes, I did. You deserve recognition, Cassandra?
Mr. Bradford, Miss Monroe.
Emma came running, weaving through the crowd with her grandparents, following more sedately. She crashed into both of them, wrapping her small arms around their legs. You were both so good! Grandma says we can have dinner together next week. A real family dinner. Margaret Whitfield approached with genuine warmth. You must be Cassandra Monroe. Thank you for taking such good care of our son, in-law and granddaughter. The words son, in-law hung in the air, an acceptance Ethan hadn't realized he'd been desperately needing. Ethan's one of the best people I've ever worked with, Cassandra said. And Emma is extraordinary. She gets that from her father. Robert added, the compliment clearly difficult but sincere. Ethan, we'd like to be part of your lives again, properly. Not fighting, not judging, just family. Ethan's voice was rough with emotion. I'd like that, too. As the Whitfields led Emma to the dessert table, grandparents are supposed to spoil grandchildren. Margaret declared. Cassandra and Ethan found themselves alone in the middle of the crowded ballroom. Your in-laws seem wonderful, Cassandra said. Grief makes people do terrible things. But so does healing. Apparently, he looked at her, really looked at her. Thank you. For tonight, for everything. You've given me back more than just a job. You've given me back more than an employee, she admitted softly. The moment stretched between them, full of everything they weren't saying. The orchestra began playing, couples drifting toward the dance floor. Miss Monroe, Ethan said, suddenly formal, but with a playful glint in his eyes. Would my boss fire me if I asked her to dance? Cassandra's laugh was genuine and delighted. Your boss is considering it. But the woman who wore this dress, hoping you'd notice, might say yes. I noticed the moment you walked into my office 3 days ago. I've been noticing for months. Ethan, I know all the reasons this is complicated. But I'm tired of complicated. I'm tired of safe, and I think you are too. He offered his hand. If you're invested in where this is going, hit that like button and comment below. Do you believe in second chances at love? Keep watching to see what happens next. Cassandra took his hand, and he led her to the dance floor, pulling her close enough that she could feel his heartbeat through his suit jacket. This is wildly inappropriate, she murmured. Probably. People will talk. Definitely. I'm your boss. We could fix that. I'm highly employable. She pulled back to look at his face, seeing the mischief there. You'd quit. For the right reason. In a heartbeat. Emma needs stability, but she also needs to see her father living, not just surviving. And I think I've been surviving for too long. I don't know how to do this, Cassandra admitted. Relationship, dating. Whatever this would be. I built my walls very high for very good reasons. So did I. But Emma told me something last week. She said, Daddy, Miss Monroe smiles different with you. Like the sun coming out. And I realized I smile different with you too. Like maybe the world isn't just something to endure anymore. Cassandra felt tears threatening her carefully applied makeup. That's the sweetest thing anyone's ever said to me. Emma's wise beyond her years. Takes after her old man. He grinned, and she laughed through the tears. They swayed together, the music wrapping around them like a cocoon separate from the rest of the ballroom. Other dancers blurred into background. For the first time in 15 years, Cassandra Monroe felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Ethan woke to sunlight streaming through his window and Emma jumping on his bed.
Daddy, Daddy,
Mrs. Chen texted. She saw you and Miss Monroe dancing, and she says the whole office knows you're in love. He groaned, pulling a pillow over his face. Emma, sweetheart, office gossip isn't always accurate. But are you in love? The question, asked with such innocent directness, deserved an honest answer. He sat up, pulling his daughter into his lap. I think I might be, he admitted. How would you feel about that? Emma's grin could have lit up the city. I think it's perfect. Miss Monroe is nice and smart, and she lets me draw in her office, and she looks at you like you're special. Mommy would want you to be happy. You think so? I know so. Mommy told me. Ethan's chest tightened. Baby, when did Mommy tell you that? In my dreams. She visits sometimes. She says she's happy being an angel and watching us, and she wants us to be happy too. She said she'd send someone to make you smile again. Emma hugged him tight. I think she sent Miss Monroe. He held his daughter, marveling at the wisdom children sometimes possess that adults had forgotten. Maybe Jennifer would approve. Maybe she'd want him to live fully, to love again, to show their daughter that healing was possible. His phone buzzed. A text from Cassandra. Coffee. We should talk. His heart rate spiked. That could mean anything from, let's discuss what happened, to this was a mistake. But he'd meant what he said about being tired of safe. Address. I'll bring Emma. Smart man. Using your daughter as a buffer. My place, 10 a.m. She sent her address. A penthouse apartment he definitely couldn't afford on his salary. This was really happening. The night before hadn't been champagne. Induced imagination. Cassandra's apartment was exactly what he'd expected: elegant, minimalist, expensive. What he hadn't expected were the small signs of softness, fresh flowers on the counter, cozy blankets on the couch, and framed on her mantel, Emma's drawing of the three of them. You kept it, he said, touching the frame. Of course I did. It's the nicest gift anyone's given me in years. Cassandra appeared from the kitchen with coffee and, notably, juice for Emma. She'd remembered. Emma immediately gravitated toward a bookshelf filled with architecture coffee table books, giving the adults space to talk. So, Cassandra started, then stopped. The woman who commanded boardrooms looked uncertain. I don't know the protocol here. Is there protocol? For falling for your boss or for your boss falling back? Either. Both. Ethan, I meant what I said on the dance floor. I don't know how to do this. My last relationship ended 15 years ago. I've built my entire identity around being independent and professional and in control. And I'm a single father whose last date was a disaster because Emma threw up on my date's shoes. Food poisoning, not commentary on the woman, though in retrospect maybe it was divine intervention. They both laughed, the tension easing slightly. Here's what I know, Ethan continued, setting down his coffee and moving closer. I know that the past 4 months working with you have been the first time since Jennifer died that I've felt like myself again. I know Emma adores you, and my daughter is an excellent judge of character. I know that when you walk into a room, everything gets brighter, and I know that I haven't felt this terrified and hopeful at the same time in years. Cassandra's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I know that you make me laugh. I know that watching you with Emma reminds me that there's more to life than quarterly reports. I know that I started keeping your favorite coffee in my office because I liked having excuses to see you. And I know that I'm absolutely terrified of this, but more terrified of not trying. So what do? We try. Cassandra said firmly. We acknowledge that this is complicated and unconventional and possibly a terrible idea professionally, and we try anyway. I should probably quit, Ethan said practically. Find another position. Eliminate the boss-employee dynamic. Or, Cassandra countered, we could be adults about it. Full disclosure to HR, no favoritism, complete transparency. I didn't build this company by running from challenges. No, you built it by being brilliant and terrifying. I'm not terrifying. You're a little terrifying. Good. Keeps you on your toes. She smiled, then grew serious. Ethan, I need you to understand something. If we do this, I'm all in. I don't do casual. I don't know how to half-love anything. And that includes people? Good, he said softly. Because Emma, and I don't need casual either. We need real. We need someone who shows up, someone who stays. I can do that. Then let's do this. Properly. Date. Get to know each other outside of work. Let Emma get comfortable with the idea. No rushing. Cassandra nodded. No rushing. Just possibility. Possibility I can work with. Emma chose that moment to appear with a massive architecture book. Miss Monroe, can you explain what a flying buttress is? The book says it's important, but I don't understand. Cassandra's laugh was pure joy as she settled onto the couch with Emma, launching into an explanation that was both technically accurate and age-appropriate. Ethan watched them together, his daughter, and the woman who was rapidly becoming so much more than his boss, and felt something he'd thought was lost forever. Hope, dating while being a single parent and navigating a workplace relationship proved complex. They kept things professional at the office, though the knowing looks from colleagues suggested they weren't fooling anyone. Evenings and weekends became their time. Their first official date was miniature golf with Emma as their enthusiastic third wheel. "This is cheating," Ethan declared as Cassandra sank another hole in one. "You're secretly a professional golfer, aren't you?" "I'm competitive and precise. You knew this about me. Daddy's really bad at golf," Emma announced cheerfully. "Mommy used to say he played like a windmill." The mention of Jennifer would have been awkward, but Cassandra handled it perfectly. "Your mommy sounds like she was funny." "She was. She made Daddy laugh all the time. You make him laugh too." "Different laughs, but both good." Ethan met Cassandra's eyes over Emma's head, seeing understanding there. They weren't trying to replace what was lost. They were building something new alongside it. The real test came 6 weeks into dating, when Emma got sick, really sick, with pneumonia that required hospitalization. Ethan called Cassandra at 2 a.m. from the emergency room, his voice shaking. "I'm sorry, I know it's the middle of the night, but I didn't know who else to call and I'm terrified and—" "Which hospital?" Cassandra cut him off, already clearly moving. "Mercy General, but you don't have to. I'll be there in 15 minutes. She arrived in 12, wearing yoga pants and an old sweatshirt, her hair in a messy bun, no makeup. She looked nothing like the polished executive and everything like someone who dropped everything to show up. "How is she?" Cassandra asked, pulling him into a brief, fierce hug. "Stable. They're admitting her. The doctor says it's serious but treatable. But God, Cassandra, seeing her struggling to breathe, I know, it's terrifying. But you're here, and she's getting care, and you're not alone." And she proved it. Cassandra stayed the entire night, bringing him coffee, calling his office to clear his schedule, sitting with Emma when Ethan needed to talk to doctors. When Margaret and Robert Whitfield arrived in the morning, Ethan had called them too, their reconciliation now solid. They found Cassandra reading softly to a sleeping Emma, while Ethan dozed in the uncomfortable hospital chair. Margaret took one look at the scene and smiled. "She's good for you. She's everything," Ethan admitted quietly. "I didn't think I'd ever feel this way again." "Jennifer would approve," Robert added. "She'd want Emma to have someone like this in her life, someone who shows up." Emma recovered fully over the following week, and through it all, Cassandra was present. Not trying to be a mother, Emma had a mother, even if she was gone, but being herself, steady, caring, invested. The night Emma was discharged, healthy and demanding pancakes, she looked between Ethan and Cassandra and announced, "I think you should get married." Ethan choked on his coffee. Cassandra went bright red. "Emma, sweetheart, that's not, we haven't, it's too soon," Ethan stammered. "Why is it too soon?" "You love each other, I can tell, and Miss Monroe loves me too, I can tell that also. So why wait?" From the mouths of babes came the question neither adult had dared voice. 3 months later, Ethan found himself standing in Cassandra's office after hours, a small velvet box burning a hole in his pocket. They'd been officially dating for 5 months, unofficially falling for each other much longer. "You asked to see me." Cassandra looked up from her desk, then saw his expression. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right, actually, and that terrifies me." She came around the desk, concern softening her features. "Ethan, when Jennifer died, I thought I was done. That I'd had my great love story and the rest of my life would just be going through motions for Emma's sake. I built walls, focused on being a good father, told myself that was enough." "Ethan, let me finish. please." He took her hands. "Then I met you. My brilliant, terrifying, beautiful boss who kept ridiculous hours and had walls even higher than mine. And slowly, over coffee and late nights and watching you be amazing with my daughter, I realized something. I wasn't done. We weren't done. Life was giving us a second chapter." Cassandra's eyes were wide, her breath shallow. "You know me," Ethan continued. "You know my worst days and my panic about being enough for Emma. You know I'm mediocre at golf and terrible at karaoke, and I burn dinner twice a week. You know I'm still healing from loss, and probably always will be. And you show up anyway." "Of course I do," she whispered. "Because you show up for me too. You see past the boss, past the armor, to who I actually am. You make me laugh. You make me feel less alone. You and Emma. You've given me a family I didn't think I'd ever have." Ethan dropped to one knee, and Cassandra gasped. "Cassandra Monroe, my boss, my best friend, the woman who makes my daughter laugh and my heart race, will you marry me? Will you build this weird, beautiful, complicated life with us?" Tears were streaming down her face. "Yes. God, yes. Absolutely yes." He slipped the ring on her finger, a simple diamond that caught the office lights like captured stars, and stood to kiss her properly, pouring 5 months of restrained workplace professionalism into the embrace. "I'm definitely going to need to find a new job now," he murmured against her lips. "Definitely. Can't have people saying I'm showing favoritism to my fiancé." "Your fiancé. I like the sound of that. I love the sound of that." They pulled apart at the sound of applause. Emma stood in the doorway with Margaret and Robert, the grandparents now regular babysitters, all grinning broadly.
I told you they should get married.
Emma announced triumphantly. "You absolutely did." Cassandra laughed, scooping up the little girl who'd stolen her heart alongside her father. "You're very wise." "I know. That's why I should be the flower girl Andy helped pick the cake." Deal. 6 months later, on a perfect spring day, Ethan Bradford married Cassandra Monroe in a garden ceremony filled with flowers and laughter, and the people who mattered most. Emma was indeed the flower girl, taking her duties very seriously. Margaret and Robert Whitfield sat in the front row, their reconciliation with Ethan complete and healthy. Cassandra's brother Daniel gave her away, whispering, "David would have loved him." "I know," Cassandra whispered back. "I think they both wanted this for us." The ceremony was simple but profound. They'd written their own vows. Cassandra went first. "Ethan, you taught me that walls built to protect can also imprison. You showed me that love doesn't replace what we've lost. It honors it by choosing to live fully anyway. You gave me back hope, laughter, and purpose beyond work. I promise to be your partner, Emma's bonus mom, and someone who shows up, always." Ethan's voice was thick with emotion. "Cassandra, you walked into my life when I was barely holding it together, and reminded me I was more than just a single dad surviving each day. You saw me, valued me, and loved me, broken pieces and all. I promise to be your safe place, your biggest supporter, and someone who never stops looking at you like you're the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Because I'm having trouble looking away." Cassandra teased, referencing that first moment in his office doorway. "Because I never want to look away again." When they kissed, sealing promises and futures, Emma cheered loudest of all. A year into their marriage, Ethan's new position at a different architectural firm was going well. Coming home to Cassandra and Emma, their family, weird and blended and perfect, was better. "How was school?" Cassandra asked Emma over dinner. "Good, we had to draw our families. I drew Daddy, you, me, Grandma, and Grandpa Whitfield, Uncle Daniel, and the baby." Both adults froze. "What baby, sweetheart?" Ethan asked carefully. Emma looked at them like they were silly. "The baby that's coming. Mommy told me in my dream last night. She said I'm going to be the best big sister." Ethan and Cassandra exchanged glances. They'd been trying for a few months, hadn't told anyone, hadn't even confirmed. "Emma, did someone tell you something?" Cassandra asked gently. "Just Mommy. And Miss Monroe, you should probably take that test in your bathroom, the one in the blue box." Cassandra went pale, then pink. "How did you?" "I needed band aids yesterday and saw it in the cabinet." "Are you pregnant?" The question hung in the air, full of hope and possibility. 15 minutes later, Cassandra emerged from the bathroom, holding a positive pregnancy test, tears streaming down her face. Ethan pulled her close, his own eyes wet, while Emma bounced around them celebrating. "Mommy was right," Emma declared. "She said she'd send someone to love us, and she sent you, and now she's sending a baby too." "Your mommy was very wise," Cassandra said, pulling Emma into the embrace. "And you're going to be the most amazing big sister?" "I know. I've been practicing with my dolls." That night, after Emma was asleep, Ethan and Cassandra stood in their daughter's doorway, watching her peaceful face. "Do you think Jennifer really visits her dreams?" Cassandra asked softly. "I think love doesn't end with death, and I think Emma has a gift for seeing what we sometimes miss, that there's room in our hearts for all of it, past and present, loss and hope, Jennifer's memory and our future." Cassandra leaned into him. "I never thought I'd have this, a family. A child, a partner who gets it. I never thought I'd have this again," Ethan corrected. "But I'm so damn grateful I do." "Me too. Life is rarely simple. Loss leaves scars. But those scars don't have to define us. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is remain open to possibility, to second chapters, to love that doesn't replace what was but adds to who we're becoming." Ethan and Cassandra's story teaches us that healing isn't about forgetting. It's about honoring the past while building a future. That vulnerability is strength. That showing up, especially when it's scary, matters more than perfect timing. That families come in all shapes and configurations, and love expands to include all of it. Whether you're healing from loss, navigating complex relationships, raising children, or simply trying to remain open to hope, you're not alone. Your story isn't over. Second chances exist. Third chances too. Keep showing up. Keep choosing possibility. Thank you for watching this story. If it moved you, please like, comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more stories about real love, complex families, and the messy beauty of life. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And do you believe in second chances at love? Your story matters too. Remember, the best love stories aren't about perfect people finding each other. They're about imperfect people choosing each other, showing up, and building something beautiful from broken pieces.